Well, hello. It is Monday, October 14th, 2019, and I am Angela Hooper-Menifield with your HR Moment from Menifield Associates. For many of you, today was not a work day, but it was for us, so we thought it only logical that we host our HR Moment for today. So this morning was a great day for me. I actually had my monthly BNI President's Roundtable meeting. It was really good. It's always good to connect with people who are doing what you're doing, which is one of the reasons why our Supervisory Academy and Symposium has so much potential, right? Because as supervisors and people who lead and manage others, it is very reassuring, supportive, and just encouraging to be in dialogue and have conversations with people who are walking a similar path. And so as someone who is leading a group of business owners, entrepreneurs, just positive, energetic business professionals looking to gain business by referring business, it can be also challenging, right? Because you have different personalities and dynamics. And so learning the role, but also being able to learn and grow with others in a similar position, again, is supportive and it's encouraging, and we work and grow together. And so it's kind of like having a mastermind group of other people, right? And we talked before about the value of a mastermind. And so that's been really encouraging. And so as a supervisor, you understand the pains, the opportunities that you may have. But those pain points, that's sometimes you want common language and just be able to share and then also grow, try some things, get feedback, encouragement. And so that's what we do for each other. So today's question centers around, how do we give feedback respectfully? Being in a committee head, leadership, supervisory position, there are times that people who are on our teams or in our committees, they don't always do what we ask them to do, or they don't get around to doing the work in the time frame that we need them to. So again, in this kind of capacity, when you think about it, whereas no one's being paid, it's all volunteer, we have to tread real lightly, right? So we don't want to not hold people to standards or hold them accountable, but at the same time, we can't just ignore non-compliance or ignore failure to complete duties, right? So we have to be really respectful, really thoughtful, and deliberate about our expectations, and then also giving feedback. And so a great example of that is there are times that, for instance, you may meet with your committee. And in today's society, I can't speak for you, but sometimes it feels like I'm literally running from one meeting to the next. And when that happens, sometimes it can cause me to not be as prepared as I need to be. So a couple of things that I tend to expect people to do in meetings is, one, if there have been handouts, read the material before the meeting. I think you've heard me say this before, but my meeting pet peeve, the primary one, is for me to come to a meeting and watch people read and or them watch me read. So give me the handouts ahead of time, and if they've been delivered ahead of time, review them, right? So that's number one. So if people don't do that, I can't, beat them up and say, hey, you didn't reach your, attachments before the meeting. But what I can say, so help me, how much in advance, I know, we passed them out, a day before, whatever that time frame was, how much more in advance should you get these handouts in order for you to be prepared, right? So it sounds like I'm owning it and saying, hey, maybe I didn't give you enough time. But I really need you to have read this content before we meet, because one, I don't want to waste your time and I don't want you to waste mine, right? So that could be something. Or if there's an expectation that they follow up on something from the last meeting. So some of the things I do is I run down the list of things that we were supposed to do, and then we kind of touch bases. Sometimes people just didn't get to it. It is what it is. But what we can do is maybe set some parameters and say, do you think you can have this done by? So you ask. And my training with DISC helps me too, because I know with certain behavioral styles, the way I say it really matters. So I can't come off as dogmatic and controlling, which I can be a little bit when I get under stress. My D or my dominant style tends to rise. And so since I know that about me, I'll say, so, help me with this, right? Help me figure out the best way to get this done. Offer suggestions, ask questions, take input, make sure people know what we're going to talk about. But one of the primary rules to feedback, of course, is the sandwich, right? Give them something good, then give them the feedback that may or may not align with what they want to hear, the constructive part, and then finish it off with something good. And so we start, by saying things like, hey, I'm really glad you're part of the team. I really appreciate the effort, your willingness to volunteer, cooperate, share. And then say, so, to help us or to help me better, what would be really good is, and then, put that thing in there. So it would really help me if when we came to the meetings, you had already reviewed this content so that, one, again, I don't waste your time, but two, we're prepared to discuss it. And then say, because again, having you as an asset and getting your input matters to me, and I don't want to make decisions in this meeting without getting your input. And of course, if you haven't read the content, then you're not as prepared as well. And so really, it puts me at a disadvantage when I can't get you at your best. That sounds a whole lot different than saying, hey, you didn't read your stuff and, I'm mad, or, this is really irritating that people come to the meeting and they haven't done the prepared work, right? You can't do that. And I've seen people do that. And again, especially in non-paid positions, people volunteer, and there's often some exchange or some compensation in other ways, maybe non-monetarily, but at the end of the day, it's still voluntary. And as we are part of organizations, again, committee heads, chairs, and things like that, that's still supervision. You have to supervise the work, even if you're not supervising the people. So again, oftentimes we're in supervisory roles and we don't even realize it, or we're uncomfortable saying what needs to be said. But even if I say it wrong, I'll try to say it. And if I say it wrong, I just hope, we create the atmosphere that people can say, yeah, I appreciate what you said, but I would appreciate it even more if you would say it in a different way, right? But that's feedback, and they have a right to give us feedback too. So feedback goes both ways, and so we can't give it if we won't take it, right? So anyway, when giving feedback, we always want to be respectful. We want to honor people. We want to leave them whole, W-H-O-L-E, as in we don't put them down. We don't take anything from them. We're giving feedback on the product, on the work, on the objective. We're not giving feedback on people, right? So it's not that we would say things like, you didn't do a good job. No, take you out of it. Talk about the work. So if the work was sloppy, say, this work was incomplete. If it was not on time, say the report was not delivered on time, versus you were late. That just feels some kind of way, right? Because now it feels like you're talking about me. And I think that's why oftentimes people take feedback personally, because of how it's delivered. And as the deliverer, we have to be cognizant of that, right? So again, trying to not use the word you is something that I really work hard to do. And sometimes what I even do is prepare the feedback in bullets. And by putting it in bullets, it keeps me from trying to make complete sentences. So therefore, I don't say you. And I also may say, so a bullet may say report on timeliness of reporting 80%. So then I'm talking about the delivery of a report versus you not delivering it, if that makes sense, right? And so these are some things we can practice. And the more you practice, or the more we practice with removing the you out of it, the less personal it feels, and it feels more objective. And if you can refer to a document, it puts the focus on the piece of paper. So if I had a piece of paper in my hand, I could say, this report here. So it's clear I'm talking about the report and not about the person. It may sound small, but I promise you, it can make a big difference in how people feel about the things that you tell them when you have to give them feedback, especially if it might be feedback that may not be as palatable as they would like. And again, we need that too, though. That's not an excuse not to give it. So, this has been your HR Moment with Menifield Associates, and I am Angela Hooper-Menifield, your Chief Equipping Officer. I hope you had, if you did have a long weekend or you traveled, that you've been safe, you've done the things that you wanted to do. And for those of us who did work today, keep at it, and we will see you guys tomorrow. Take care. Bye.